James Purnell, the polls suggest, they all seem to suggest that Mr Clegg, quote, won. What does winning mean?
Well, I think it was slightly easier for him because he's introducing himself to the public. But I think, as I said at the start, I thought his performance was actually relaxed, and I think people have warmed to that. I think the Conservatives are going to go after him on Trident. They're going to try and say, actually, that may have sounded good in a debate, but is this kind of loony lefty? So I think that will be quite interesting to watch. I think it's true that David Cameron's best bit was at the end, and I was wondering whether maybe that's because that's actually a lot like Prime Minister's questions. That's, you've done your script, you've rehearsed it, and you get it out.
You have the payoff line.
And you have the payoff line. The thing that he was sort of struggling, I thought, a bit with was the sort of the cut and thrust and the answers rather than the
What do you think winning means for Mr Clegg?
I just want to pick up on that first. I mean, I thought David Cameron was very slick, but it was very telling that the polls didn't reflect that. The polls still don't like him, however slick he is. Right. People haven't really warmed to it. So in terms of what's winning for Nick Clegg, well, clearly having a platform and being there is winning. But he did tremendously well, and he engaged with people.
He didn't let himself down.
And this was the point that you made, I think, in that clip a minute ago. You made the point that he engaged with people, he engaged with the audience, he engaged with the other people who were in the debate. He turned to face them. He came across as a normal human being who was interested in debating ideas and listening to what people had to say and responding to it. And I think that's what the public want. They wanted that difference.
But here is what is odd about the whole event, because what winning for Nick Clegg did not mean was that people thought this is the fellow who would make the best Prime Minister.
But you don't know that.
That this is the fellow who will be Prime Minister. And you have to ask yourself, why do the two party leaders, Gordon Brown and David Cameron, give the airtime to Nick Clegg? Because what we do mean by Nick Clegg winning, if he did, was that he came from a very low base, from scarcely being known at all, to being on the same platform as the two people, one of whom is going to be Prime Minister after the election. And he kind of held his own. So it's a rather limited sense in which he has, had a triumph this evening. And you
still a triumph.
Gosh, it sounds so sour grapes, really. It does.
It's not sour grapes.
You wait till we have a Lib Dem government, Lloyd George coming back.
I'm afraid I won't be here when it happens. It will be a very long way from that. No, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to make a political commentary. The political commentary is, why did the two leaders, one of whom is going to be Prime Minister, agree to a set of rules in which the Liberal Democrat
they weren't expecting him to win, I suspect. They weren't expecting him to win.
James Purnell, I want to come on to Gordon Brown. You left Mr Brown's government because you didn't think he was up to it. Was he up to it tonight?
Yeah, he was, actually. I thought he had the best strategy.
He shouldn't have resigned.
No, I said what I said, and I actually said at the time, I hope he makes a fool of me and he wins, and I'll be delighted if that happens.
He's made a fool of you tonight.
I hope that's true. I hope it turns out that
wear a little jester's hat, a bell on the end of it.
Not a great hat wearer, so probably not. Even for you, Andrew.
Why do you? Many people would do that for me. Why do you think he did better than Mr Cameron when the public, certainly from the three polls we've had tonight, don't agree with you?
Well, it was definitely my impression as we were going along, and the Channel 4 poll, for example, which happened during the debate, said that as well. But it was really because he had a strategy of trying to expose on police that David Cameron was cutting the money, and on education wasn't matching the Labour Party's education spending, and he's never really had a forum in which he could get that out on primetime TV.
No, you're all spending money you don't have.
But you're
all spending money. I mean, this country's skint, and you're all spending.
I was commenting on his
money.
strategy. His strategy was to get that out, and he did that very effectively. His line about this is answer time, not question time, was actually very, very good, and that was his strategy.
Well, the debate got much better for Gordon Brown, despite, I think, the immediate public reaction when it finally hit the economy. It was extraordinary that it began with populist issues. When it hit the economy,
but the public line, it didn't go up there at all, did it? When they did the tracking,
I know it didn't.
They didn't respond at all, and it's supposedly his best. His
Simon, finish the point. And
let's
not talk about these lines going along.
Yeah, the lines
I never want to see one
spaghetti.
of these things.
You're absolutely
again.
right. Cardiac arrest. It was when it got to the economy, you wanted someone... What Gordon Brown was doing, which did not make him sympathetic at the beginning, which was sort of isolated himself in a kind of study of patriotic brooding, not very TV-friendly, served him very well, when actually you wanted to have the feeling that someone was actually thinking hard. I'm just saying the impression. It's sort of about minute 40 or something. I thought actually there is, a sort of rock-like figure.
I thought he found it hardest of the three to make the transition from the House of Commons to the
Yes.
television screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was still talking House of Commons language. There was a great deal
It's
about,
jargon.
I've done this, I've done that, that's why
All
I
right.
put
Oh,
this
also,
in
when
place.
we do this next spring...
Okay, let's move on to the
resumption of that.
impact of it. You can analyse this thing to death. I think we just have. What's the impact on the campaign?
Well, I think the public, which on the whole didn't see the debate, because I think only about 6 million people watched it.
If it's only 6 million, that would be very disappointing.
Yes.
12 million was lower estimate, but we haven't got the ratings yet.
Well, let's see. A minority of the public will have watched it, but they will receive in their newspapers tomorrow a sort of generalised pundit view that Nick Clegg did surprisingly well. I don't think there'll be any kind of unanimity about how well or how badly David Cameron and Gordon Brown did. So they'll simply wake up tomorrow and say, well, we have to take more attention of Nick Clegg than we thought we had to.
Is a hung parliament now the story of this campaign after tonight?
Well, it's very hard to sort of try and bring about a hung parliament because you have to get 60-odd million people to work out.
No, I understand that, but we've got opinion polls suggesting that we're heading for a hung parliament as they stand at the moment, and we've had the leader of the third party that would hold the balance of power winning the debate tonight. It would seem to me it's a fair conclusion to say, I'm not saying we're going to have one, but hung parliament at least moves up the agenda as the story of the campaign.
Yeah, I think it will sort of start to dominate probably the next couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see whether in the last week people go, OK, actually we want to have a result in this election, or whether, I mean, it's not an accident that you don't often get hung parliaments in Britain. It would be a pretty extraordinary result if that did happen.
It's going to be tougher for him next time, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Simon, you said that once an image has been established in the public's mind, it's difficult to shift. And I think today Nick Clegg was able to establish an image in the public's mind that was very positive.